Well, it finally happened. It was inevitable now that I'm recording my audio and video separately. I hit record on my audio, but forgot to hit record on my video. Good job, Julian. Now, I could completely re-record this video, but I don't have time, so we're just going to go with kind of more of a slideshow vibe. Obviously, this is not going to be the thing for all of the videos going forward, and since I know that a lot of my viewers listen to these videos rather than watching anyway, I think it works out. Hey, hello, it's me, Julian Greystoke. I am here looking a little bit scruffy, but that's okay, to talk to you today about characters. Hooray! A little bit ago, I asked my viewers what sort of videos they'd like to see from me, and I got a couple of questions about characters that I decided to lump together into a single video, since I didn't think either of these would be quite long enough to warrant their very own video, so we're gonna go ahead and do it. I also think that these two subjects kind of fit well together. The subjects are character voice and how to give your characters different, distinct voices, and also writing a character who is maybe quote unquote more intelligent than you or has a very different skill set from your own. As usual, I would like to remind all of you that I am not the god of writing, so these tips are just only that, my tips. They are not laws or rules or things that you have to obey. They just might be things that are helpful and might kick off some ideas for your writing process. So first we're going to talk about voice. The commenter who asked about this was mentioning that they were struggling when they would switch POVs, differentiating characters' voices. And yes, it can be most noticeable when you switch POVs, but you also can have it being a problem even if you're not switching POVs. If two characters are too similar, your reader might get confused, like who's talking, whose line is this? Now, when I say character voice, the first thing you might think of is things like accents, word choice, the formality of their speech. Like, do they use slang? Do they use contractions? I've heard some people say that if you want to make your character sound fancier or more educated, they shouldn't use contractions, but I have not found that to be the case in real life, so. But anyway, those are elements of character voice, but honestly, they are probably not the most important parts. Obviously, you can differentiate a character with things like accents or word choice, and you should. For example, in Adventurer Mage, there are certain words that Valentine would use because of his history versus what Maeve would use. A lot of that just comes down to what we'll talk about is just being very, very in the character's head as the author. But I've got my notebook here. So, what does the character's voice entail, especially if you're switching POVs? Well, a lot of it comes down to not how the character necessarily speaks, but how they think. Because everybody is going to think differently. So if you're switching POVs, the way that your one character thinks and sees the world and manages that is going to be different from the way another character does it. And when people say that two characters have the same voice, what they usually mean is when they go from reading one character to another character, they can't tell that they have switched. Both characters look at the world in exactly the same way. Like, yes, you can find people who have similar upbringings and opinions, but two people viewing the world in exactly the same way? Pretty unlikely. So some ways to help you differentiate voice are think about several aspects of the character. For example, how do they view other people? Maybe character A is very charitable towards other people. They think that other people are generally good, and they tend to expect kindness or goodness from other people, whereas character B may be more cynical, and they don't expect other people to be helpful or good. For example, using my own books, now I don't have too many books that switch POVs. I do it in Boots, and I do it in the third Adventurer Mage book, which is not out yet. But in that book, the way that Maeve and Valentine view people is very different. Maeve is a full-on introvert, and she just would really rather not be dealing with people at all, whereas Valentine is more of an ambivert. He can be introverted, but he's also really quite good with people, and he's much more on that end of how can I communicate with people? What can I do to get people to like me? And even, yes, how can I use my connections with people to get what I want? Valentine is much more tuned into other people. And so when I switch to his point of view, I switch the way that the character that I'm dealing with is interacting with the other people around them. Something to consider is how the character was raised. That can have a huge impact on their view on life. Did they have a happy upbringing, or was it not so happy. Using Adventure Mage again, for example, Maeve's upbringing was pretty unpleasant, while Valentine's was, by comparison, extremely cushy. So that factors into their voices. Maeve has had a lot of hard times, and the way that she thinks of the world and deals with the world is colored by the hard times that she's had. An important one is humor. What does your character find funny, and how do they express humor? Because pretty much any character can be funny at different points during the book. You don't need to relegate it to just one funny one. It is a little bit easier to have one of your characters be maybe the funniest one, the most likely to crack a joke. But as you switch from POV to POV, something to think about and figure out is, what does this new character find funny? How do they approach humor? Would character A laugh when a kid falls down and character B would be horrified? That's important to know. Also, what kind of jokes do they tell? Does character A tell dirty jokes while character B would never imagine doing such a thing? Maybe they're more of a pun kind of person. Thinking about how each character approaches humor is a really good way to help figure out their voice. A little exercise that you can do to maybe help you with character voice is to take the characters out of the story, and this is just an exercise, a free writing exercise, and you're going to put them both into the same situation independently of each other, and you're going to practice writing how that character distinctly would react and behave in that same situation. Because if it turns out to be the same way, it's too similar, then your character voices might be too close together. I recommend a situation that neither of them is prepared for or has much way to deal with, and it could be strange. You could take your characters from your fantasy book and put them in a modern day grocery store and see what they do. It's up to you, but I like to use a scenario that is not something that the characters would like organically encounter within your book. And that can really help you see how differently these two characters think. Finally, another really good way to practice, and again, this is practice, is to write into very distinct points of view. If you're having trouble with voice, it might be because your characters are just too connected, like they're maybe the main character and her love interest. Of course, they're gonna think kind of the same way and have the same goals. So instead, to practice different voices, take your main character and the villain and write from both of their points of view, because presumably they would have pretty distinct worldviews, goals, even senses of humor. So try doing something like that to get a handle on writing very different voices for characters, and then see if that helps you come back into the characters, like maybe the main character and her love interest, and see if that can help you strengthen those muscles. Because writing is a skill, and skills you have to learn and practice. So that's it for character voices. I hope there was something helpful in there for you, dear viewers. And now we will talk a little bit about another question, which was, how do I write a character that's smarter than me? And I have a couple of tips for that. Again, not the god of writing. These are just a couple of thoughts for you. So my first one instinctively is, you're gonna have to let them guess things or intuit things in your plot, and you're gonna have to deal with that. Now, I kind of say this as a pantser, but this can happen in the plotting process as well. I think this can happen at any point in the process. If you've got a really smart character, it's not going to work to use their stupidity as a way to get the plot going. Now, this is something in general that I feel really strongly about. Like, if your characters being stupid is the only way that the plot works, you need to rework your plot. But this is especially true if you're writing a very intelligent character. So if the fact that this character would reasonably guess your plot twist or figure out your plot twist or whatever, then you need to rework that plot twist to better challenge that character. Think about the clues that you are setting down and that character will have access to and when, because they should be able to take those clues and use them well. If you have this character like make a logical mistake, it should be for a good reason. They should have a very clear reason that they think the wrong thing. And that can be tough as an author, to have a character who's outsmarting you as you write, but that's the challenge. Another thing that you can do just to kind of make them feel more like a very intelligent character is remember that intelligent people aren't smart about like every single thing in the world. So I would give them a couple of special interests. And then you, the author, can go do more heavy research about those special interests and not have to worry so much about like that character being smart about everything. Even Sherlock Holmes famously throws out information that he doesn't think he's gonna need. Like, I think I remember he, like, doesn't know anything or care about anything to do with, like, the galaxy or the planets or outer space or anything like that. And anytime anybody tries to inform him of that, he's like, nope, that information is not important to me, get it out of my brain. So that's something else to remember. Is a very smart character might be very smart in some ways, but hopelessly dumb in other ways. And as long as you make it clear why, I think that could be really helpful to you, especially if you're intimidated by the amount of research you might have to do for a like very smart character. Focus on the things that that character is interested in. And also have fun playing with the things that they're not interested in. Are they disgusted by like anybody suggesting that they should pay more attention to those things they're not interested in? Or are they maybe keen to learn? Something to think about. And finally, and wrapping it back around to voice, think about how this character speaks versus how the other characters around them speak. Now, you don't have to make your more intelligent character speak in a very stilted way, but they might be more picky about how they speak, and they would definitely use the correct language for whatever they're doing. I read a book where it was very clear that the author had not done the research about like some terminology with the thing that they were having the character do, and they were just lazy about it. Let's say that you have a character who knows a lot about horses, but when you get to the horse parts, you don't use the language that that character would use. Instead of saying bridle, you say they put the leather straps on the horse's face. No, the character wouldn't know the name for that. They put the metal thing in the horse's mouth. No, that's called a bit, and the character would know the name for that. I'm being very like extreme here. I think most people know what a bridle and a bit is, but that's the important thing is like when you're writing a character who is intelligent, and especially if they specialize, they're gonna know the names for things and how those things are used, and they will not think twice about using the correct names for things in their own head and out loud to other people. So if you've got an intelligent character and they're interested in something, especially if it's something that you don't know about, you're definitely going to want to research those things so you can use the correct terminology and make it clear that you actually did that research, instead of like the book that I read where no research was done and it was very clear that the author was just like obviously like avoiding having to use the names for things, and I'm like, I can tell you couldn't be arsed to look it up. So that is it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and you found it helpful. If you did, let me know. If you have any more questions, comment below. Also, feel free to add your own tips in the comments so that people who watch this video can go down there and find even more helpful things for them. If you have any fresh ideas about videos you'd like to see, especially writing videos that you'd want me to do, or even writing videos that you would like me to redo, if there's one that's really old and you want to see my opinions on it now, comment below and let me know. Also, don't forget that I am a developmental editor, so if you want someone to put professional eyes on your book and maybe even notice where your character voices are too similar, you can hire me. Find me on Fiverr. Feel free to message me and ask any questions you have. You can also find me on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get exclusive content not seen here on the regular channel. Plus, you help me self-publish my own books. Speaking of which, I do have several books that you can purchase now on Amazon. And now I will stop blabbering and see you all again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
Amity, rarity. I've got it! Its real name is
Sarah, Lisa, Amanda, Jenny, Savvy, Scribbling Cat, Rennie, Jesper, Zaire, Shelby, Callison and Sophie, Patrick, Belle, Light Julie, Hidden Glade, Kit, Puppet Master, Merween, Sophia, Ashley, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Melissa, Afra, Deborah, Rita, Alyssa, Celia, Amanda, Lafone, KJ, Jessica, Caitlin, Ursula, Robin, Jojo Bookish, Bear, Kirsten, Pudamancer, Mooney, Kohikaro, Kira, Sam, Haley, Pansing Pony, Roma, Veda, 78 kilograms of shade, Cat, Sarah, Nico, Sunnyshy, Bird Anonymous, July, Martha Baggins, SB Boots, Ruin Queen of Oblivion, Lochnoonga, Constantina,
Jen,
and Gay Tutter.